Oh hey everyone, you might be asking what I've been doing for the last 4 years, and the answer to that is... shitting. Yeah, so around 4 years ago, I made a video about video games that needed a new entry, and out of all the games I talked about, only one got a new release, which was F-Zero. On the 14th of September 2024, Nintendo would release a game called F-Zero 99, which is essentially like Tetris 99 and Pac-Man 99, rest in peace, where you play a game that resembles the original F-Zero, except this time you race against 98 other players. It's a pretty fun game, but just doesn't feel like a truly new F-Zero game. When I first talked about F-Zero in the original video, I stated that I wanted an F-Zero remake with modern graphics. While I do like what Nintendo did with F-Zero 99, it honestly just feels like a side mode to a bigger game, kinda like what Knockout Tour was to Mario Kart World. I just hope that Nintendo will make a new original F-Zero game someday, but we'll just have to wait. Anyways, with that out the way, today I'm going to be talking about more video games that need a new entry. So sit back and relax, and let's get on to the Ace Analysis. Kid Icarus is a lesser known series by Nintendo. For those wondering, in these games you play as an angel named Pit. The first game was released on the NES in 1986. Then there was an obscure sequel named Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters, which came out in 1991 on the original Game Boy. The series would then not have another entry until 20 years later in 2012 with the release of Kid Icarus Uprising on the Nintendo 3DS. When this game was announced, Nintendo hyped the shit out of this game. From creating a whole new studio called Project Sora, the same team that would go on to make Smash Bros. 4, Ultimate, and Kirby Air Riders, Nintendo knew that this game would generate a ton of hype, as they literally showed it off last at Nintendo's E3 2011 presentation. Suffice to say, this game was praised very well for reviving the series, and one of the reasons the 3DS went from a failure of a system to one of the best-selling handheld systems of all time. And what did Nintendo do with this series after that? It honestly sucks because Kid Icarus Uprising breathed new life into the series and introduced a new set of fans into the series. So what would I like to see out of a new Kid Icarus game? Well, I actually want to see two games. What I mean is that I want to see Nintendo continue the rail shooter they went for with Kid Icarus Uprising. But before they do that, I think it would be smart for Nintendo to re-release Uprising and then make a sequel. I also think Nintendo should do this because Kid Icarus Uprising is pretty expensive to obtain these days. In fact, the only way I was able to obtain this game was via homebrewing my 3DS. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I haven't played much of Uprising, so I'm not too familiar with its story, but something I would like to see in this re-release is mouse controls, and maybe the game could be a Switch 2 exclusive. I think that this game would work pretty well with the Switch 2's mouse controls, as you could use one of the Switch 2 Joy-Cons to aim while pressing ZR to shoot. Plus, using mouse controls can help with one of the major issues in the original game, because now you can map the camera button to whichever Joy-Con 2 is being used as a mouse, and just using that stick to turn the camera instead of swiping on the 3DS's touchscreen. I also think that putting this game on Switch 2 would be cool, as now players won't have to worry about possibly cramping their hands since the game would play more naturally. Obviously, I think the game should still have an option for regular controls for those who would like to experience the game with controls that are fairly similar with the original version or want to play in handheld mode. Either way, whether it'll be a new entry or a remake, I just want to see a new entry in this series, and I really hope that we'll eventually get one someday. Another series I would like to see have a new entry is Pac-Man. Yes, I know. Pac-Man has had some new entries lately, mainly with Pac-Man World Repack 1 and 2, which are ports of Pac-Man Worlds 1 and 2, as well as Pac-Man Mega Tunnel Battle, which is an online maze-style Pac-Man game. However, besides that, we haven't seen much of Pac-Man. I mean, sure, he's appeared in a few mobile games and in a few complications of classic games, but other than that, we haven't gotten a real Pac-Man game in so long, unless you count this game, which I really don't. In fact, the last new Pac-Man game that isn't an online or mobile game was Pac-Man Championship Edition 2, which came out a little over 9 years ago in 2016. And the last new 3D title is Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures 2, which came out 11 years ago in 2014. Suffice to say, Pac-Man really needs a new entry, and I just hope that the next mainline Pac-Man game at least tries something new. Maybe it can be a Pac-Man World 4, which could make sense considering how Namco remastered Pac-Man World 1 and 2, or maybe it can be a new 3D Pac-Man game that also lets you play old school Pac-Man, kinda like what Super Mario Odyssey did with its 2D sub areas. But anyways, I just really hope Pac-Man can get a proper new entry someday in the future, and of course, we'll just have to wait and see. One of Nintendo's lesser known franchises is Chibi-Robo. Chibi-Robo is a series that has always had entries coming out in the worst ways imaginable. The first game came out on the GameCube in 2005 for Japan, but wouldn't be released in the United States until the following year. Chibi-Robo was a cute little game where you're a small robot and you clean shit in a big ass house. It was a charming little game, but due to poor advertising and the game coming out at the tail end of the GameCube's lifespan, the game flopped, only selling around 130,000 copies. The second game, Chibi-Robo Park Patrol, was released in 2007. Now you would think that this game would sell well since it was on the DS, right? Well, it turns out Nintendo said, let's lose a shit ton of money on this game, and they did. Because this game ended up being an exclusive to Walmart in the United States. Like at that point, you might as well give up the goddamn game for free at the fucking dollar store. But the game did sell pretty decently in Japan, mainly because it wasn't exclusive to a damn Walmart, and the game sold over 160,000 copies by the end of 2007. The third game was a Japanese exclusive, which was more in line with the first game. It was called Okeri Chibi-Robo Happy Rishi Osoje. The fourth game was a digital-only game on the 3DS called Chibi-Robo Photo Finder. It was a short game, mainly revolving around you taking pictures of shit because this guy told you to, and it's honestly not a bad game. Now, Nintendo would finally decide to give the series a release that wasn't on a dying console, exclusive to a damn Walmart, or digital only. And they did the series justice in 2015 with... Wait, what?! Yeah, Chibi-Robo Zip-Lash was a lifeless platformer game that was slapped with the Chibi-Robo brand. I will admit, it is kind of fun at times. I really enjoyed smacking enemies with my plug and reaching higher places with it. But that's all the game has to offer. This game was devoid of all personality it once had and felt like a huge cash grab. Besides, you have to consider what happened the last time I said something positive about this game. This is the best game ever made. Holy shit. It also sucks how Zip-Lash was essentially the series' last chance. But due to low sales, and main interest being with the amiibo that came with the game, it is unlikely that another entry will ever come out. It also doesn't help that the company who made the game, Skip, has been shut down since. Hey guys, sorry to pause the video here, but I have found out recently that ex-developers of Skip have been working on a game similar to Chibi-Robo called Ko-Robo. Now, I do not know when this game is coming out, but there is a page on Steam, and it is confirmed to come to consoles, so if you guys want to wishlist that, you can. But I'm mainly bringing this up as technically kinda is a new game coming out, but also isn't because it's not Chibi-Robo, but it's made by the same people as them. Anyways, back to the video. But I don't think the series deserves to end like this. Nintendo needs to reboot the franchise. And I don't mean make another lifeless platformer game, I mean a true remake of the first game. If any series deserves a second chance, it's Chibi-Robo. Granted, I do understand that you can play Chibi-Robo on Switch Online via GameCube Nintendo Classics. But granted, I made the script well before that was announced, and I still think it'll be nice to see the game with better graphics. But anyways, with all that out the way, I really hope that we can get a new Chibi-Robo game sometime in the future, and that this series can be as good as it used to be. Do you remember Punch-Out? You know, the series that was first released on the NES in 1987 as Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, before being re-released in 1990 as Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream, since Nintendo's agreement with Mike Tyson had expired and Nintendo didn't want to renew the license. Well, Punch-Out has actually had 2 more games released afterwards, such as Super Punch-Out on the SNES in 1994 and Punch-Out. No, not that Punch-Out. This one was a reboot of the series released on the Wii in 2009, but ever since then, we have gotten nothing. Well, we did get a similar game in 2017 from Nintendo as ARMS, but I feel like that game is just way too different. Kinda like how different Mario Kart World is to Mario Kart 8. Which is a huge shame, as Punch-Out on the Wii was a really good game that in my opinion uses motion controls really well. I feel like this game would be perfect on Switch, since you could easily recreate the Wii's motion controls by allowing users to simply shake the Joy-Cons. I also feel like Nintendo could just remake the Wii game, as it was really charming, really fun to play, and had fucking a Donkey Kong as an opponent.
Plus they could add funky mode.
But in all seriousness, I could totally see this happening. Besides, there's not much else you could do with a Punch-Out game except for maybe adding a unique story. So I personally think that Nintendo remaking Punch-Out on the Wii could introduce so many people into the series and might could help influence them in making other Punch-Out games in the future. Okay, I'm going to keep this section brief as I'm mainly going to be talking about this game in a different video, so look out for that. The main reason why I want to make a separate video on this game is because I have so much to say about this series that it could very well double the video by itself. But to keep it brief, we already know that Ace Attorney 7 is going to happen with a leak that happened a few years ago. I also believe that Ace Attorney 7 is going to come out within the next few years, given how Capcom has already ported all the other games to modern consoles, except the Professor Layton crossover. So they might do that one first, but honestly, I don't really think that game is mainly important, and even if they were to port that game, well after that, the entire series is on Switch. So because of this, I feel like Capcom was getting really close to finishing Ace Attorney 7. I mean, why else would they release 2 Ace Attorney games in 2024? Again, I'm not going to talk about what I want to see in Ace Attorney 7 as I'm going to go in depth on it in a separate video, but don't worry, as that video will hopefully be released sometime in the next 4 years, and it'll be a long one, so keep a lookout for it. Last but not least is metalgearsolid. Now yes, I know Konami recently released Metal Gear Solid Delta, a remake of Snake Eater, last year, as well as a collection of the first 3 games via the Master Collection in 2023. And yes, I am aware that they are making a Master Collection Volume 2, but that's not what I mean. Besides, I already had to cut out the Donkey Kong section since it took me so long to make this video that a new 3D game came out, so please just give this to me. Anyways, it has been 8 years since the last new Metal Gear game came out, being Metal Gear Survive. However, if you only count the main entries, then it's been 11 years with 2014's Metal Gear Solid V, The Phantom Pain. The reason why there hasn't been a new game in so long is because the creator of the series, Hideo Kojima, left the company after Konami shifted from focusing on console games to mobile games. It really sucks, as I have read somewhere that Kojima wanted to make more games in this series, and I believe that the Metal Gear series deserves to continue. Now, I think it would be pretty cool if Konami made a prequel to MGS3, given how they just made a remake to that game. Hideo Kojima had an idea about making a Metal Gear game about the boss, and I think this would be a great game as we could see more of her backstory and how she became the boss that she was in MGS3. I also think this would be a great idea as we could learn more about the mission where she was forced to kill her mentor, the Sorrow, plus Konami could add in the Cobras as I could see them fitting in the story. Plus, the game just makes so much sense for Konami to make, as they literally just remade MGS3 with Delta, so they could just reuse models for the characters and maybe tweak them to make characters look a little younger. I also think that it would be cool if they made a sequel to Metal Gear Rising, as many fans have wanted one, and I personally think Raiden's story deserves to continue. Now, I don't think Metal Gear Rising 2 should be the new game Konami goes with. Rather, I think they should make a game I talked about earlier about the boss, and then maybe make a Rising 2 later down the line. And that wraps up today's video. Honestly, it was a lot longer than I expected it to be, And if you enjoyed what you saw or have any ideas on games you want to see new entries in, let me know down below in the comments, as I'll definitely be sure to read those. But with that out the way, I'm AceAnalysis, and I will see you in 4 more years when I rebrand this channel to Grass Review, where I touch grass. Hello everyone, welcome to Grass Review, where I review grass, and it's a pain in the ass. Today I'll be reviewing this piece of grass right here. As you can see, it's green and looks like grass. Damn it.